I
Who am
think so.
Let me think. That's far back,
Yeah.
you know.
Where's your name tag?
Yeah, so what were you, your full name?
Torvald Grimstad Eriksson.
Torvald
Not
Grimstad
at birth, honey. You didn't
No.
have
Eriksson.
You mean when I was first born?
Yeah.
Oh, Torvald Grimstad.
And when did you pick up the Eriksson?
Before World War II, I think 38 or 39, I guess. Something like that.
Oh,
Or
okay.
wait, no, it must have been before, because I went to school over here in San Mateo, come to think of it.
Was
So,
it high school?
yeah, I went to
I
high school.
graduated from grade school in 38.
When did you come in? When did you go into grade school?
When
Grammar school.
When I went
I
in?
mean, high school then.
About 38.
38. So I must have been about the same time I did over here. But I only stayed there a year, and then I went back to Sonoma.
37 and 38.
Something like that, yeah. I can't remember exactly.
And it was right around then when you
Changed the name.
Changed your
My
name.
mother married this Erickson, and then I took the name of Erickson.
Did you?
My middle name still stayed Grimstad because that was my real father. And then I took the last name as Erickson, and I lived with it ever since.
How'd you feel at the time about changing your name like that?
Well, you know, when you're young, you don't really think about it. You do what you're told, really, I guess. You know. But later on, when I got big enough and I went in the service, then I wish I'd have kept it. But then, see, when I went in the military, my name was Erickson. So everything on a record today is all Erickson.
Right.
It'd be pretty hard to change it back, really.
Right.
But legally, I guess, and paper-wise, I really don't know if it was legally changed. I couldn't say it because I never looked into it. You know?
Right.
My
Right.
mother's the one that changed my name.
And what year is your birthday?
On my birthday, it was in May the 19th, 1922.
1922. And what were you doing when you were born?
Skiing.
Where were you born?
Now that's the last
In
one.
Grimstad. Do you know any, like, was it in the hospital, or do you know
No, it's home.
you just at home? They had midwives and all that?
Yeah.
I was born at home too. We did.
There's no such thing as
No.
going to the hospital.
And then, of course, I didn't have a birth certificate, which sort of worried me when I was going to retire because they didn't have such thing in there, especially in where I come from.
Right.
They were in the Bible or I don't know, whatever they did. But I had no record, but so far it turned out pretty good, though.
Right.
Because I have my military record, and of course that helps a little more. But I'm sure today they're just as modernized as they are over here, probably
Right.
more so in certain places.
What's your parents' names?
Well, my father's Peter Grimstad,
Okay.
and of course my mother. Oh, now you want her married name or what?
If you know her maiden name.
Yeah, her maiden name was Annie Hansen.
Annie Hansen.
Yeah, no, Halverson. I'm
Halverson.
sorry,
Okay.
yeah. That was the legal name, and then my grandmother married this Hansen, and she took the name Hansen. It was just like I did with Erickson.
Right. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
None, till about.
You were 27 when your sister.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I had got out of the service, and it wasn't too long afterwards that. Well, she went back to my original father, Grimstad, Peter.
Annie went back to.
Yeah, and then they had this little girl, and I guess.
Annie must have been pretty old at that point, huh?
She was only 14 when
When I was born, see,
Oh, so she.
very young.
So she was only. Well, still, she was what, 41 then?
about 4, yeah, something like that, I guess. In her 40s, you know. So I'm 71, so she's way up in the 80s.
Right.
So well, I would say between 85, 86, something like that. If she's still alive, which I really don't.
Right.
I often thought about, looking into it. They have these people that investigate to find out, but I never did.
Yeah.
I should have, I guess. But you know how are you?
It's.
People go out of your mind and you just forget about
Yeah.
it.
Get caught up in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Your daily routine.
She used to come over here and visit all the time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And then,
How far back was that? That was before I was even born, probably.
oh,
Huh?
yeah, right. To be honest, I can't really remember as far back, but it's many, many, many years.
Yeah. Your kids
Okay.
Your kids were still all little, real
Oh,
small.
yeah, right, very little. But she always made it seem like a duty to come over here and visit, and then we'd go over there to Frisco where she lived. And like I say, I don't know how many years ago, and then all of a sudden I just stopped, and I've never seen her since. Not never investigated. We've called a few times, but the number that the house that she owned was a great big 3-story home over there in Frisco in the Diamond District. And whoever answered the phone has got nothing to do with her. But I don't know if she sold it or rented it, or she did talk about going back to the old country. But now I don't know for good or for just a visit or something. I got a lot of relatives back there.
So for all you know, she could be living back in Norway.
Yeah, right.
Gotcha.
Would have been interesting, and well, I guess it's not too late because it'd be nice to take a trip back there if we could, you know. And then,
Yeah.
But then you don't have to pay to stay any place,
Yeah.
which would be neat too.
How? When was the last time you were in Norway?
When I was born, I never did get back.
Since you were what? How old were you when you left?
Between 6 and 7, something like that. Yeah.
So and you haven't been back since.
I never went to school back there, you know. And but you know, when I was born back there, then it was like the Wild West here, you know.
Right.
And then of course we lived way out in the country, so and we had no transportation. You know, it's if you wanted to go to town, which they had this little town of Grimstad, you either had to go by horse and buggy or by sled and horse, you know. And because it was too far to walk. But it was like I say, we lived out in the country, raised our own vegetables, which was neat. I remember. And then, of course, I remember when I was a kid playing with the neighbor kids. We used to go ice skating because the rivers would freeze over, you know.
Right.
And you got your front door, get on a pair of skis and take off and just go fool around. And a lot of wild stuff there. But I remember going with my grandmother. We used to go fishing, by the way, too, in the dory. And we'd catch fish and take it home. And then, you know, we had potatoes, raised a few vegetables and stuff. But then you can go out in the woods there, and there was all kinds of wild berries, wild cherries, all kinds of berries, different types of fruit that grow wild.
Right.
So that's what we did.
Oh,
and then we fished along the streams there. They had little rivers, maybe about this wide, and we'd catch them, and then we'd rip them open and eat their rung, which is caviar.
Oh,
right. That was neat. I remember some of those things. But my grandmother, even when I was a little part, did it unrecorded. Anyway, when we used to go fishing, we'd catch the fish, and she was way up in age. She must have been in her 60s when I was there. And we go out and she'd do all her rowing and everything.
Man.
If I'd have had any brains at the time, I probably wouldn't have gone with her.
Yeah.
But we out in the goddamn thing and sit there and fish.
Yeah. So, yeah, dangerous, really.
Yeah. But they had these big fjords, you know, they go for probably hundreds of miles, way up. And the fishing, practically just throw your hook on you and fish and stuff like that. That was neat. Some of the life that I spent back there, you know, as an early kid, I really enjoyed it. When I think about it now, I really did enjoy it, you know.
Right.
And if I had stayed a little longer, I might have enjoyed it more. I don't really know. And that's when she came, my mother, which of course I didn't know anyway. My great-grandmother was the one that raised me, you know. And she came back in 1929, I believe. I don't know what the date was. And she come back there and I guess had all the stuff set up and she took it to this country. They used to send us money, so I mean, I don't really know this per se because I was just told.
Right.
But we were so goddamn poor, it didn't make no difference one way or another anyway. But everybody helped everybody else. But they stole so goddamn much, you know. It wasn't post office like today. I mean, I guess they had a little shack and they gave the mail out or something. So if there's any money in it, they would take it anyway.
Right.
But we didn't get a hell of a lot of years.
Is he allowed to cuss?
We'll edit it out at a later
But,
date.
you know, goddamn way things work. But you don't, when a kid, you don't look at stuff like that. You
Right.
just look at the good stuff, like you could go skiing or skating or eat
Yeah.
candy. Candy's nothing I never had much until I came to this country. Never knew what it was. I didn't know what a tomato was, and I hated them.
Right.
Because I got sick. But it wasn't from a tomato, it was seasickness when I came over. When I came over on what they call the Stavanger Fjord. And they had these long tables like this, and everybody would sit down there and eat, and then they had these stupid glasses where you dip your hand in. I thought it was to drink, but it was to wash your fingers with. And then they had...
Some things don't change, huh?
They had tomatoes, and that's the first time I ever was acquainted with them. And I think that, in my mind, I said, hey, that's what made me sick, but it wasn't. It was the seasick, because it was
Right.
rough coming over here.
Right.
It was so goddamn rough that, you know, the railing, they had to put canvas down there because the waves would come way up. That's the one thing I do remember. Outside that, I guess it was nice. Then we went to Ellis Island, and then all I remember from there, we came on the train, and I remember one thing I remember about the train was it was on like stilts. I guess like in Chicago, you're looking out your window, and here comes the train by. And that's the way it was. I remember that. And then going across the country, it was interesting to me. But then, you know, like I say, I was only, 6 or 7 years old.
Right.
That was neat. And then from there, we moved to San Francisco, and I lived there with my grandmother.
What was her name?
Emily Hanson.
Emily.
And Carson Hanson, like was my grandfather, that I knew.
Right.
He'd have a real grandfather, but he was so much with here. I mean, he was a real nice guy. I guess I lived there. I don't know. In fact, I went to the same school my wife did, Sanchez. And all I remember, I going to school in first grade and second grade, I guess. Third, I guess. I can't remember really.
That's really odd.
And then
We went to the same school in San Francisco.
didn't know each other. No.
Didn't even know each other.
Yeah. So you guys maybe even met before you knew
Yeah,
it.
it's just destiny.
Destiny.
Who did this?
Just couldn't get away from each other.
All right.
Picked the flower.
I never really liked
The
school.
flower, did she?
Because I never had to go to school, but why the hell should I?
Right.
But then, of course, I went to kindergarten. I went to first grade, second grade, and third grade. And then from there, we moved to Sonoma, and that's when
You're using it as a broom.
Have any memories from school that stand out?
Well, the only thing that I always looked forward to in school was recess and lunch. They used to go sell these chocolate bananas. And I could see, cause every time I got a chance, it was only a nickel. I'd go get one. I could eat dozens of them. As far as school concerned, they could shove it. I didn't like it at all. And, well, like I say, the only thing good about school was the lunch hour, really,
Right.
or playtime.
Right. Yeah.
And the same thing when I moved to Sonoma, then we went to grammar school. And, you know, we'd play tennis and soccer and stuff like that. And that was the only thing that interested me. I didn't care about the goddamn.
And how many kids did you end up having?
You don't have to tell the truth.
You just admit to
Better
the
not
age.
know the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
But it was neat, though, really. And then, of course, my great-grandmother, the one I told you, I raised me in the old country, she was with us all the time.
Uh-huh.
And then my grandmother, Hanson, they owned an apartment house, and they rented out rooms. Like that's what they did in the old days. This was a big, I guess, big two-story home. Of course, in those things, I guess you could buy a two-story home for probably $5,000-6,000. You know?
Right.
And that's what she did. She rented out to these war veterans, and we had a couple there from World War I. We had this one guy. I remember him, though, definitely. He was shell-shocked. So any noise going around, he would run in the closet and hide. And I was just a little kid. I thought the guy would be wacky.
Yeah.
But he was shell-shocked. Yeah.
Which I guess is a little wacky.
Yeah, right. You have to be. You know. And then the one thing I remember, I got in hell for. My Uncle Joe had bought a Model T Ford. I think it was a Roadster. No, a four-door sedan. I'm sorry. And he had it parked in the street. And I used to go play in the street, and I had a little bicycle. And then he'd go work on the old Model T once in a while, and show me. He was pretty good at it. So when he went in the house one day, I went full with it, and it's got a brake, and it's not the brake like you have today. It's actually a gear shift. So when it's in neutral, halfway, down was all the way. You put it in, in halfway was neutral, so you could manipulate your gear shift.
Right.
If you put it all the way back, it actually would bind. Not like the goddamn thing go, and the thing, I guess, for some reason, the car, instead of being, against the curb, was this way, and the sun was going all the way down right across the street into the neighbor's yard. And I run like hell when I did it, though. I got hell. And then one other time I broke the neighbor's window. I got hell for that, too. They had basements in those days. You know, you walked up like here, and then they had a basement that went down. People lived down there, too. And I broke, but it wasn't a very big window, but I remember getting hell. But I didn't get in too much trouble.
Right. At least not until you got married, huh?
No, right. Well, I never got caught in some of them.
Yeah.
But I like when we moved to the country. I like that. It was neat. Man. Like I say, we live right across the street from her. Had this big ranch type. And it's one night where you could go hunting and if you want to go fishing. And I got a motorcycle when I was just, I was about 7, 8 years old. I went and bought a motorcycle and gave it to me. It was like these little Honda 90s.
Right.
And that's exactly what it was. And it was modernized when you think back, and this was made in 25, 26, the motorcycle, you know. Had a gear shift, you know, and a throttle. Had a magneto on the back, so you didn't need nothing. And you just started and put it in gear and take off. You know. But I think I ended up pushing it more than I rode the goddamn thing. But I didn't understand it, you know, those days. But it was a 2-cycle. What horsepower what it got, I'll never know. But they were so neat when I think back now. That had a foot shift, which is modern. I mean, today.
Right.
And it was back in 1925.
Man.
I had a lot of fun with it. And then I got old JD. And then my uncle had a Henderson 4-banger. I don't know if you ever seen their straight 4. And then the Indian. I had an Indian 4, which is a straight cylinder 4-banger. Like in a car, but it's a motorcycle. And finally I got the 1936 Harley Davidson 61 overhead. I rode that for many years. And I had an Excelsior. I don't know. I had a goddamn many motorcycles. It was funny. Because in those days, you know, these guys would gather these motorcycles up. And what I liked about it, no money involved. And the guy would say, well, what do you got to trade? You know, well, I had this and that from the farm. You know, okay, we'll trade. I take it home. We'd somehow get the goddamn thing to go. No license.
Yeah.
Then I bought a...
Probably some more down here.
Yeah, it was the Harley I got made. When I was going to college, we rode it from Sonoma to Santa Rosa, and that was neat. But they were pretty heavy for me. I didn't really grow up till I was about 14, and then I shot up. You go out right in the field. You didn't need a driver's license. You didn't need a driver's on your goddamn car.
Right.
And we take these old Model T and drive all over. Get caught by the cops. We had 2 highway patrol there. You know, they were buddies. Everybody knew everybody else. It was family. They said, you know, they say, well, I'm going to tell your grandmother. So,
we're going to have to come out here and get some.
they get caught the next time.
Yeah, right.
But it was neat. And then going to high school. Well, grammar school was the same way. I drove. I thought I got a license, permit in those days, but I delivered milk, you know, to Sonoma, to the Greenway after milking time. And then, of course, I went on to school, which was neat, because then at lunch I would sneak out for a ride and smoking and
do all the things you shouldn't do.
Yeah, well, I did that in grammar school. We found a culvert. And, of course, you're not supposed to, you're in grammar school, I don't know about today, but supposedly you weren't supposed to leave the ground. So.
Right, no, you're still not.
Well, I did. Fall through the culvert, run like hell, downtown to the front of ours. And which was neat.
They keep bumping each other. Did you see that?
Bring out the old tobacco, get the bicycle.
See, look, they walk and they go right in.
Watch the time run back in class. Right.
Yeah.
I had an old Model T, it was a convertible. You know, I couldn't afford tires in those days. So, you know, a lot of these cars, these big Lincolns and Caddies, and some of the old days, they had big tires. So we'd take the tire, cut the bead out, because that was steel. Cut the bead out, slip it over your old tire, then go down the road like that. You had a tire about this big, you know. When actually it was only about this big inside, but it worked. Hey!
When a man loves a woman, can't keep his mind on nothing, yeah. He'll change the world for the good thing he's found. If she